7 years ago, at the start of 2011, the Irish Men's Sheds Association was born, and in the interim it's grown at a rapid rate. In our neck of the woods there are 7 sheds in Louth, with Meath boasting 14. And today I'm joined by the organisation's CEO, Barry Sheridan, who hails from the Royal County. Barry, you're very welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jerry. Delighted to be here.
It's great to see you again. Do you know, I smile, Barry, because I think of my late father Brendan and his shed. Oh my God, Barry, it was a Pandora's box. He had everything in it. He'd never throw out, and if ever there was a need in our house or in the community for something, he generally had it. That was the shed, wasn't it? The original concept of the shed.
That was the original concept. Like the whole men's shed concept originated from Australia. Probably where we're 7 or 8 years into it here. They're probably 5 or 6 years ahead of us. And it was literally 2 women in Australia whose husbands were being made redundant. And they said, well, how are we going to get them from under my feet nearly when they retire, knowing that they were so used to going to work every day. And they established this idea of having a space where they could go and meet their friends and come together and do little projects and tinker away in a shed and all this kind of stuff. And that's where the whole idea of men's sheds came from, and it snowballed in Australia very quickly. And from that then it was brought to Ireland in around 2010, and the Irish Men's Shed Association then was set up in 2011. And basically what happened in this country was that it's an awful thing to say, but it was nearly like a perfect storm. You had so many men out of work for the first time. You had so many men, feeling more isolated, with plenty of worries and troubles that they're trying to overcome. So there was a gap there in terms of men in Ireland. And where did it go? How did they reconnect with people? How did they find something to pass the time? And the shed concept just took off like wildfire in this country.
God, I never tied those two things together, but that is a factor.
It was a factor in the initial growth. And then very quickly, I think what happened was that people could see the benefits of this, not just for the men, but maybe for their families and also for the communities that the sheds are actually operating in. And what happened then was this: more and more people were hearing about this shed idea and concept and kind of going, God, our community could do with that. Or a few men would get together and go, why don't we start a shed? And really, like, what a shed is it's a social space first and foremost. It's not solely or wholly about making something with wood or doing anything like that. It's somewhere for men to go and meet, and for some people that's what they need, and it's about providing that opportunity for all men to have a space to go and meet other people, maybe learn new skills, or maybe share some of their life skills that they've gathered over the years. Because before that, and I think the growth kind of reflects that there was never really anything for men like that. Like, where do you go to meet new friends if you're 50? Where do you go to meet people and get involved? Where do you go to kind of connect to your community? And where do you go to maybe find that sense of belonging, that sense of purpose that we all want to feel and be part of something and feel connected to your community? And the shed really, really delivers on that for an awful lot of men.
Mary Nally, Mary from the Third Age, was in that very seat where you are today about 24 hours ago, and we touched on this, we mentioned you were coming today, and she was just saying, how important she regards your organisation from many aspects. And, you mentioned the physical there, but think of men of an age who, you mentioned the loss of job, men who've lost a partner maybe in life, who are on their own, who have nothing to do. Even the company, Barry.
Yeah. Well, like, as we say here, Jerry, there's probably 10,000 men in this country in sheds. Now, if you just stop and think about that, like, where would they be without their sheds?
10,000.
10,000.
How many sheds would you say, number-wise, I'm sure all over the country there are?
We're an all-island organisation, so between north and south we've got over 400 sheds. And we're opening new sheds, as in communities are opening new sheds at a rate of probably 1.5, 1.25 every week. That's every week of the year. Which is, there's no other organisation growing at the rate we're growing, which says two things to me. First and foremost, there's a huge unmet need there. There's a huge gap there in terms of something, but it also points to the fact that these sheds actually work for not just the men, but actually the communities that they're operating in as well. Because really the premise of the sheds is first and foremost, it's a place for the men to go and meet. But secondly, what we encourage is that the men actually get involved in their community and give something back to their community. And it's funny because when we do our research, independent research, and ask, what are the big impact pieces for the men themselves, they will say first and foremost, like by high 90%, that their health and well-being improves just by being a member of the men's shed, just by having somewhere to go. Secondly, they feel more connected to their community, and for some people, they're more accepted in their community, and that's a big thing for people. Community means an awful lot, and I think we kind of lost the run of ourselves a little bit as a country, because we're quite good at community, but I think we lost how important that community and how important that role can be at an individual level, but also for a societal level. And I think the sheds are playing a major role in kind of getting us that one little step closer to the type of society we all want to live in.
If I'm listening today and I'm not a member of a shed and I feel that I am a little bit lost in life and I might like to explore something like this, how do you join a shed? And is there a lower or age limit or an age you must be? We mentioned retirees and things like that. What's the story there?
Well, it's basically, we said because it should be open to all men. So anyone above the age of 18 can join their local men's shed. Now, for some people, that can be a big step, though. How do you go about that? How do you walk in that door the first time? It's like anything. It can be a bit daunting for some people. But we'd encourage them to contact us through the Irish Men's Shed Association or their local shed or someone they might know, and maybe just call in for a cup of tea. There's no pressure. It's completely call in for a cup of tea, and the vast majority of people who do that will come back again. They'll find something there. And it's not about being good with your hands, or it's not about, being, a master craftsman or anything like that. Everyone's got something to offer to a shed. We've got people who go to sheds and literally will just make the tea. Or we've got people going to sheds and they might be good at organising or being part of a committee, or they might be good at fundraising, or everyone's got something to offer. And it's not, there is a perception out there sometimes as well. It's for people who are retired or out of work. But it's not, it's for everyone. So we've people who are members of sheds who are working and they'll call to the shed once a week or whatever it might be. It's about connectiveness, it's about being together. And really what we're trying to do is making sure that we're breaking down that social isolation that exists out there for an awful lot of people. And that's not a rural thing only. That can be you can be just as isolated in an urban area as you can in a rural area. And what we're trying to do is provide these facilities where people have the opportunity to go meet other people, share some skills, learn some new skills, get involved in community. It's just win-win for everyone, really, Jerry.
I read a line as I was researching you and your organisation. It said that men are great shoulder to shoulder, but not so good face to face. Does that sum it up in a way? An aspect of it?
It does, and that's like a motto that's been penned by one of our colleagues in Australia years ago, and he's trying to explain what sheds are and how important they are. And he really came up with it is that men don't talk face to face, but they will shoulder to shoulder. So if you imagine yourself maybe with a few guys and you're tinkering away at something, you're more inclined to have a conversation or have a chat, and that chat could turn into, well, how are things at home, or how are things here, or how and it's more likely that individuals will, or men for that matter, and not really just individuals, but men will open up a little bit more when they're in that environment. And really what the shed does is it just provides that safe and secure environment for them to discuss things that maybe we're not usually very good at discussing, and that's one of the big things. And we've seen that, we've introduced a program called Sheds for Life, which is our health and wellbeing program, and that has been really, really powerful for a lot of the men in terms of we would bring partner organisations who join with us, who might, like the Irish Heart Foundation, for example, will come and give blood pressure checks, but they do it in the shed because the guys are comfortable in the shed. We had a recent meeting in Meath there, and we had all our sheds from Meath together, and we had Dementia Ireland out talking to us, and a lady called Fiona came out and spoke. And we thought, this mightn't really work, the guys mightn't be into it. But you could have heard a pin drop, and we'd probably 50 or 60 men in that room because it connected with them. But they wouldn't go to that talk outside of their shed environment, if you know what I mean. And that's the key piece, So basically we're reaching a group of men, and over 10,000 men, that educators, healthcare providers can't get to. And that's what we're doing. And we're reaching them, we're educating them, but also they're finding their place within their community again.
I've heard the saying, and I've seen it happen, sadly, where I live with some people, where men let themselves go.
Yeah.
You've seen that. There's a big aspect of it. They drift.
Yeah.
Health-wise, physically, mentally, every way, how they look, how they look after themselves.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of keeping men on the focused and on the straight and narrow.
Keep them focused, and really, people just. I bring it back to that sense of belonging. When you feel part of something, you're more inclined to be kind of paying more attention to what's going on. Like men generally, and it's a fact that's out there that we die younger. We don't look after ourselves as well. We don't tend to kind of take care of our health as well. We don't eat as well as we probably should do. We're not very good at going, I've got a pain here or pain there, that'll be fine. Where sometimes actually it won't be fine. And sometimes that early check or that early intervention can have a much bigger impact than maybe just letting things sit. And what we're trying to do, part of what we do in the sheds, and it's not all what it's all about, because we're not a health service per se, yes. We never will be, but part of that is that you're just in an environment where it's okay to maybe have a little bit more of an open conversation about this stuff.
When you look at individual sheds, Barry, and we talk about the numbers, 21 in total here between Louth and Meath, 7 in Louth, 14 in Meath, being part of a local community and embedded in there, how important is that local support to the survival of sheds?
Oh, it's critical, really, because these sheds all operate, they're self-sustaining themselves, which is a huge task for them. So yes, there's some great support from maybe local authorities, and there's good support from the education training boards, and good support from local partnerships and local development companies. But the guys themselves still have to kind of run that shed and have to manage that shed. So it's about empowering the men to give them the tools to be able to do that. But without the local community buy-in and support, the sheds wouldn't be sustainable. And really what we found is that we've seen the sheds, whether it's making benches for schools, whether it's doing stuff like the guys in Drogheda here doing a big piece for the FLA coming up now as well, getting involved in their community and giving something back to the community. That means that the support they need it comes back tenfold to them when they need it. And the work that's going on out there in communities would blow you away, whether it's helping tidy towns, whether it's doing up old buildings, whether it's about getting involved in community projects or parades or events that are going on. We've got sheds that are building sets for drama groups. It's amazing really what's going on out there, and the communities nearly, and this is why we always talk about the impact of the sheds just isn't on the men, and that was the original idea. It's great for the men, and absolutely that's fantastic, but it's much broader than that, and it's about their families at home, because the family life of each of those individuals is improving, because the guy walks out of that shed with a smile on his face every day, and he's going home in a better place than maybe he came in. And secondly, then you're looking at the communities, because all the work that the sheds will do is for the community, so it's enriching the community, and enriching the community makes Ireland a better place, really, and it's so important. And sometimes we kind of it's such a simple concept, but sometimes the best ideas are the simple ones.
They are indeed. And there's the thing, if you're listening today, if you're in a community and you feel you have a need, there's a huge resource on your doorstep in these sheds.
Absolutely.
Men with skills and ability, and they're looking for things to get involved
in. They are looking for things to get involved in. And sometimes they mightn't be able to do it, they mightn't have the resources or the skills or whatever, but definitely ask. Definitely get them involved, because that's key to their survival, and it's key to maybe, a sustainable communities, in essence, and giving them the opportunity to get things done around the place. I'll give you an example. In Ashburn there a couple of months ago, we did this big project with one of our partner organisations, which is Topline. They're the DIY suppliers, and we came together in Ashburn. They were trying to open the youth cafe in Ashburn. They were working on it for 4 years to try and get this youth cafe open. So we came together with Topline and ourselves and the local hardware store Murta's there in Ashburn, and we said we'd go in for a day and we'd kit the place out. And we had all the sheds from Drogheda here, we had all the sheds from Meath there, and they came together to basically painted all the walls, did painted murals on the walls. So literally that youth cafe was closer to getting open than it ever was before as a result of them guys coming together. And the lads couldn't do enough. All they wanted was give something back. And if you talk to the guys in Ashburn now, they're just blown away by what was done that day. They made all the furniture from pallets. It was amazing. It really was amazing. And it kind of captured what Men's Sheds is all about, I think.
You mentioned it started in Australia, but certainly Ireland, I know this, is regarded as being at the vanguard of this movement now worldwide. May I say congratulations to you, because you've won a major European prize this year, the European Citizens Prize.
Yes, yeah. It's a huge coup for us, really, because it's we're constantly, I suppose in my own role, you're constantly looking for that recognition that you feel that the sheds and the movement probably deserve, and the supports that will help to continue to make them sustainable into the future. But when we got contacted by the European Parliament to say we were nominated for this prize, we were blown away. And basically it was the Irish MEPs like Sean Kelly and Mairead McGuinness locally here as well, who would have put forward this nomination, because they were very aware of the impact it was having here. And we got word then just 2 weeks ago that we won the prize, which it's fantastic. And what that does for us, it's a recognition for all the sheds out there that they're doing something really, really well, and they're doing something that makes a difference. But it also gives us the recognition that hopefully will help us as a charity to kind of get more supports and the type of recognition that we feel that they probably deserve in trying to keep this whole thing going for the next number of years. So the last groups to win it from Ireland, or some of the last groups to win it, were, for example, the GAA. So that's the kind of level we're at now, which is huge from 2 or 3 years ago even,
That's brilliant. You have a major international event now coming up. No pressure, Barry. This is going to be a busy time for you. 12th and 13th of September in Páirc Uí Chaoimh in Cork, the new Páirc Uí Chaoimh. This is the World Gathering, is it?
This is the Irish men's shed gathering, but basically because we sit where we sit in terms of the movement worldwide, we've got people coming from Australia, Iceland, the US, Denmark, all over the UK, maybe Sweden, maybe Finland. So basically all these countries are coming to Ireland to see, how do you do it, guys? How did you go from having no sheds maybe 7 or 8 years ago to having over 400 now, and having this model that works, and how can that be replicated? And so we're playing a leading role in assisting them countries get established, but they're coming to Ireland for this event. This is the biggest men's shed event in the world this year. And first and foremost, it's about the guys in the sheds here. It's an opportunity for them to come together and meet each other from Connemara or East Belfast or, Killarney, wherever it might be. So sheds from all over the country coming together and learning from each other. It's not a conference, it's more a kind of a sharing of knowledge and experiences. So we'll meet there for the couple of days. We'll visit some sheds around Cork. We'll do some touristy bits, but really it's about the guys coming together, and really it's a showcase of what sheds are all about in Ireland and the difference they're making. And again, hopefully it'll be motivational and it'll be inspirational for the men that attend, but also it'll raise the profile yet again of the difference that men's sheds are making in this island.
Can I come back to what happens in the sheds? And, I hope we've dispelled that today. You don't have to have an engineering degree. You don't have to be a tradesman. You don't have to be anything like that. As Barry says, if you want to come in and make a cup of tea, you're very, very welcome. Yeah. Poetry. Now, there's something that never struck me as being a shed thing. Yeah, poetry. We did, as part of National Poetry Week this year, we did a poetry competition amongst the sheds. Loads of entries. Some of the work that was produced by the guys in the sheds would just blow you away. It was fantastic. It was really, really... it was really kind of inspiring to see the work that they could put together. That's one example. We've got numerous choirs around the country, and the choirs are huge in the sheds. And it's that one thing. And we're talking about guys that never sang before, never ever sang before, and they're starting these choirs. And part of what we're doing now in Cork, the entertainment will be done by all choirs from around the country, which is great. But you've guys making honey, you've got guys do writing classes, you've got IT classes, you've got gardening, you've got a lot of the gardening going on during the summer now, when they're writing allotments and stuff like that. So the variety of what can be done in the shed. So it's nearly like going into and having a wish list, because it's about the men deciding themselves what they want to get involved in. So you can do your woodwork, you can do your IT stuff, you can do your creative writing, you can do your poetry. I walked into the shed in Dundalk one day and I couldn't find the guys, and I was going, God, there's no one here. And where were they? They're down the back doing Tai Chi on a Friday morning. And I kind of go, and the instructor was one of the guys from the shed, and he's over 80. And if ever, it just blow your mind. It was just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And the variety, some of the work that's going on around the country, whether it's helping schools or helping local community projects, whatever it might be. So that giving back piece is really making a difference, and it kind of puts the emphasis on us, and nearly a duty on us, to make sure that we can continue this good work that's going on out there at the moment. Does 18 to 80 sum you up when you talk about age? Or beyond 80? Beyond 80, yeah. I think we have this kind of running thing in the office. We're going to go, who's our oldest shedder, as we call them, and I think there's definitely at least 2 or 3 over 90, and we definitely have some around 18 or 19. Now, what we'd like to see happen is, because that intergenerational learning that occurs is fantastic, and what we'd like to encourage is more younger people to get involved, because of the variety of what's going on there. There's so much variety. But a very quick story about that. We were down, I heard a story from one of our sheds down in Kerry, where a young guy entered the shed and he wanted to kind of see if someone could teach him how to weld. He'd left school really young,
And if there was any welders in the shed, I think there was a retired engineer there who brought him in, taught him how to do it. He went off and he did his apprenticeship in welding. Then he got his life on track. But if you talk to the older guy about the experience and how he found it, he said no, it was fantastic. But the best thing for me was that young guy showed me how to send an email on my phone, and I think that just captures the whole piece. So the potential is huge, the impact is huge. It's just a matter about keeping it all going.
It's a great story, and well done to you and everybody who's been involved from the instigation 7 years ago to today. You're doing a great job.
No, and look, the great job is happening in the sheds around the country, and what I just say to your listeners, if you've got a shed in your area, give them a bit of support, or if you want them to get involved in something in your community, contact them, get them involved, because they're more than willing to get involved. But they do need that little bit of community support. But what they're doing is actually improving communities around the country. So it's fantastic. It's very rewarding. It's very rewarding for the individuals, but also for the families and the communities outside that as well.